International Journal of Health Policy and Management. Quality and speed are our culture and the keys to our success. Welcome to the audio summary section of the International Journal of Health Policy and Management.
Hello, I'm Professor John Blenkinsopp and I'm here with my colleague Dr. Nick Snowden to discuss our paper What About Leadership, which is a commentary on the Mannion and Davies paper, Cultures of Silence, Cultures of Voice. We were very impressed with the Mannions and Davies paper. I think it brings out a lot of the nuances about whistleblowing in healthcare organisations. One of the things we were struck by was the absence of a discussion of the role of leaders, and we were interested in understanding the role that healthcare leaders in particular can play. Healthcare leaders tend to come from a clinical background, so you might imagine that they're very responsive to concerns being raised about things that affect patient safety and quality of care. But there's a long history of these leaders actually reacting quite negatively to such concerns and to whistleblowers. So we were interested in exploring what role they could play in creating organisations that were more enabling of whistleblowing and more supportive of that. Nick, I know this is something you've been interested in terms of the role of leaders in culture.
That's right, yes. And obviously leaders are central to the creation and evolution of a culture in any organisation. And healthcare organisations no different. I was particularly interested in the role that the stories that leaders not only tell but also create through their behaviours, through their responses to whistleblowing, and the way in which that narrative part of communicating helps to create the culture that either supports or discourages whistleblowing.
I came across a good example of the kind of stories you're talking about in an organisation that introduced a no-blame culture, and a member of staff was severely criticised for having made a mistake. And the question was raised with the chief executive about, I thought we had a no-blame culture, I thought you could make mistakes. And he said, you can make mistakes, not stupid mistakes. And that story was repeated through the organisation, and the message was very clear. This isn't a no-blame culture. You will be blamed if you make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Because I think this, it is a challenge for leaders to be able to create that environment, because they need themselves to be very secure in order to take on board what can be perceived as criticism. If you're responsible for the organisation and somebody says it's not working effectively, one can take that personally. So I think we need to support leaders and develop leaders who are secure in themselves psychologically. But I think there's also an issue of security that comes from the scrutiny that the leaders of healthcare organisations find themselves under, particularly from politicians. A healthcare leader having concerns raised with him or her about the organisation will always be aware that responding positively to those concerns also means revealing those problems to the outside world, and politicians can be too quick sometimes to be critical instead of recognising that actually healthcare, like any industry, mistakes will be made, things will go wrong, and the prime issue is to try to avoid mistakes wherever possible, but also to rectify them when they do happen. And I think politicians have a key leadership role in supporting healthcare leaders to create these cultures of voice where concerns can be raised and addressed in ways that really are for the interest of all of us as citizens and prospective patients.
Great. Thanks, John. Yeah. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you found the content interesting, please download the paper, and if you'd like to contact us to discuss the content, then please do so by email. Thank you.